Hello friends, today we are going to talk about deploying a Rails 8 application to production on Render.com. Now, SupeRails itself has been running on Render since forever. Since I launched SupeRails, it's always been on Render. Let's first have a look at how SupeRails is set up to work on Render. So first of all, let's have a look at the project, and we have a web service, the Rails application, a worker, and one shared database. So I'm not using Redis because I'm using the gem good job for active jobs for all my jobs, and it is Postgres based, so I don't have Redis as a dependency. Let's have a look at the web application. The setup is very simple. So going to the settings, I have the build command. This is mostly all the default, but in the end I also run bundle execute Rails DB migrate. So on each push to production, I also run the migrations if there are any missing migrations. And then we have just bundle start Rails server. Going to environment variables, also nothing specific, nothing important, just the database URL and the Rails master key. These are important. The database URL, you can get it from Render again. Here, if I open my database, click on connect, here I will have a database URL. I can copy it and paste it there. And going to the worker, again, it's the same web application deployed where I also add the database URL, the Rails master key, but I have a different run command. Going to settings, here I start the command to start good job. So bundle execute good job start. And that's basically it. That's my whole setup of having SupeRails running on production. Nothing sophisticated. And if I have a look at the billing, let's see here. So you see I'm paying like $21 for running the web application, the worker, and the database that is shared among those two. Now, how can we deploy a new Rails application, Rails 8 application to production? Let's start from a new application. Here I've just created a new Rails 8 application, and let's look at our database setup and our gem file. So we have gem Sqlite, and we have Sqlite as the database for production and for development. First of all, I'm going to change the database from Sqlite to PostgreSQL. So Render, it runs with PostgreSQL. You can create a new Postgres database and connect to it. And generally speaking, I don't feel confident yet in deploying my applications with having Sqlite as a database. So first of all, I'm going to change the database to PostgreSQL. We can run this command Rails DB system change to PostgreSQL. Allow. Okay, it will let's say the changes. So in the gem file we replaced Sqlite with Postgres. In Docker file it was also replaced, and we updated our database YML. Let's have a look here. So we are using Postgres, and here you see, for production we would be creating 4 separate databases: one for the main application database, one for solid cache, solid queue, and solid capable, the solid trifecta. Okay, let's run bundle, and let's say Rails DB create. You see in development we created just one database, but with the current setup on production we would be creating 4 separate databases. Let's say Rails DB migrate. Okay, and let's save our changes. So what was the command? Change to PostgreSQL. Okay, now we don't want to pay for 4 separate databases when deploying to production. We want to maybe use one shared database for all these services. So we want solid queue, cable, and cache to use the same main PostgreSQL database. Andrew Atkinson, the Postgres guy, he wrote a nice book about Postgres, wrote about using solid queue and solid cache with Postgres. I recommend these articles, good stuff. So let's try running solid queue, the job adapter, on development using our main database. So to do this, we can go to the documentation of solid queue, and here we'll have something about single database configuration. This is what we need. We want to use not 3 databases for each of them, but just one. So copy the contents of db queue schema into a normal migration, and delete this content. Let's say Rails generate migration, solid queue. It creates the solid queue migration. Let's copy all this stuff into the main migration. Okay, delete the queue schema, and we can also do something similar with the cable and with the cache. So solid cable and solid cache. Let's try running all the three solid gems in the same Postgres database. So solid cable and solid cache. Okay, deleting these other schemas, so we don't need all these three additional schemas. Let's run the migrations. Rails.db migrate. Okay, let's see our changes. So in the schema, we've added all the migrations for all the solid tools. Looks good. Now let's update our database configuration. So going to database.yml. For production, we can remove all the settings for using a separate database, and going to queue.yml. Here we are going to, no, we actually don't need to say anything. Let's go to cable, and here we are going to say connects to database writing, and it's not going to be writing, it's going to be the main database. Let's see, it's going to be primary. We have primary defined here in database.yml, so this is the primary database. And for cache, in production we are also going to use the primary database. Okay, going back to the solid settings, let's go to development.rb and active job. Do we have a queue adapter set here? No. Let's go to production. So here in production, the queue adapter is set to solid queue. We are not going to need this line for using a separate database anymore. We can just remove it from production. I think it's also set in the solid queue. Yeah, remove config solid queue connects to from production. So we're removing this line. And yeah, we want to run it solid queue also locally on our development database, not inline. So I will say config active job queue adapter is solid queue, because by default it is inline in development mode. So we're going to run solid queue in development. And let's now try to trigger a job. Let's save our changes. So solid Trifecta with one database. Okay, now let's try to trigger a job. Let's say Rails generate job hello world. Let's open the job. Let's say puts hello world, and let's run this job. Rails console before hello world job perform later, and let's maybe try enqueuing the job for running like 1 week from now. So we can say hello world job set what's the syntax, wait 1.week perform later. Okay, now how can we see if we have the jobs enqueued? To check this, the best way is to install mission control. GitHub mission control. So it's also a gem from Rails for having a dashboard of all your jobs. Let's add this gem to our gem file next to other solid gems, because it's kind of related to solid queue. Okay, now we need to add the jobs to our routes. And is there anything else we need to do? Let's start the Rails server and see if it works. Okay, we cannot start the server. Why not? Address already in use. Okay, I might be already running a Rails server elsewhere. So let's say port 3003. Okay, let's go to /jobs, and it doesn't work because we need to maybe try disabling this HTTP basic authentication. Let's disable it in development just to have the jobs dashboard available quickly. Okay, so here you see I have one scheduled job that is scheduled to run in 7 days. Let's try scheduling another job. So refreshing, you see I have 2 scheduled jobs. And why are they not running? I have the Rails server running where the job's not running because I need to start the solid queue. So there are a couple of ways of starting solid queue. One way would be to, let's open our proc file. Oh, I don't have a proc file because I'm not running like Tailwind CSS. It wasn't generated automatically. So let's just start a new process, and we're going to say bin Rails solid queue start. Okay, so you see the one job has been processed. If I go back, you see finished jobs, there is one. Let's again try running one job now without setting wait time, perform later, and so we have 2 jobs that have been performed. So we have solid queue running with Postgres locally. Now if we go to puma.ob, that's something really interesting. You see we have this plugin solid queue. So if we have environment variable solid queue in Puma enabled, then we are going to be able to run solid queue in line without having a separate process. So I don't need to run this command solid queue start. I can just say something like if Rails equals development, then we will also run it in line. Let's now just start the Rails server. I'm not starting the worker separately. And let's have a look at our jobs. So we have 2 jobs finished. Perform later. 3 jobs finished. So you see, this plugin solid queue is working with Puma and works fantastic. Okay, so let's see. We have mission control and we've got jobs running. So now we can be sure that solid queue is working locally with our Postgres database. Now, if you are thinking of improving solid cache, for example, its performance with Postgres, then you should also read this article, and it gives some guides on how to set up your Postgres properly. So let's save our changes. I think we have everything we need to go into production. Run jobs. Okay, let's just create a basic migration of posts into our application. Let's go and say Rails generate scaffold post title Rails db migrate, just so that we have some kind of data to play with. Let's set the root to posts index, and let's go to localhost. So we have posts, we can create posts. Okay, so now we have a basic application that we can deploy to production and play with. Okay, we are ready to push to render. So where are we going to start? Let's go and add a new, we can start with a new web service, but I would suggest starting with a new database. It can take some time to generate the database, and we will need the database URL for our web service. So let's give it a name. I don't know, like render pg1. We don't need to set anything here. The latest version, obviously. there's actually a free plan that you can also try running, and it was a nice surprise for me to learn that Render has some free plans. So if you're just experimenting and starting out, then you can try with a free plan. Let's go with basic. So 15 gigs of storage by default, that's fine. Again, I can try like 5 gigs or whatever. You can see the pricing here. Let's go with 15. Create database. And here, if you go to connect, you have this internal database URL. So external, if you're going to, let's say, host your web application in one place and your database on Render. Internal, if you have the web application and the database both on Render. So I will copy this, and you see the status of the database is created. It can take a while. Let's go and create a new web service. And here I'm going to connect a web a GitHub repository. Let's see. I have this GitHub repository. I will copy the URL. Yes, it's a public GitHub repository. Let's see. Yeah, maybe I have just created this repository, so it's not found yet. Let's click connect again. Let's try given access. Okay, so I went to the settings, configuring GitHub, and here I authorized this Render 8 repository. Okay, let's take this repository. Oh yeah, maybe because it was private, I didn't notice. Okay, so language, here I need to select Ruby. Build command, I will also say railsdb migrate bundle exec railsdb migrate, and start command can be this one. It can be bundle exec rails server. Again, there's also a free version for the web application, but we are going to run on the starter plan. Good to start. So here I need to add my Rails master key. Do I have one generated? Let's see. Here I have a master key. Let's see if it works. Editor Vim Rails credentials edit. Yes, so I can access the credentials with this master key. And I will also need a database URL. Now, if you go to database.yml, here it says that yes, you can manually say all this, but the database URL is takes precedence over anything. So we're going to use database URL. And in the meantime, let's go and have a look at our Postgres. I need to copy the database URL once again. Okay. So here's the Postgres URL. Advanced. So the health check path is /up. In new Rails applications, if you go to /up, you see there's a green screen. So it's a default health check path that exists in Rails 8. Auto deploy, so whenever you have a new change pushed to the main branch in GitHub, it's going to automatically deploy the latest updates. And I think we're all good. We can go and deploy the web service. Yeah, one thing, I forgot just one thing. Going back to our Puma settings, here you see we have the solid queue in Puma. So I'm also going to go to environment variables, and I will set solid queue in Puma to true. Okay, save, rebuild, and deploy. And now let's wait for our application to build and see if it works. Okay, so it took a couple of minutes, and you see, going back to the list of services, I see that the web application has been deployed. Let's try opening it. So here is the generated URL, and you see it's running. Let's try creating a post. Hello, and yeah, the post has been created. Let's try viewing our jobs. So I cannot view the jobs because I disabled authentication on mission control jobs only in development, so I can also do it in production. Again, I don't recommend disabling this job authentication in production. It's just for us to quickly be able to view and maybe trigger jobs in production. So let's push the changes, and you see I just pushed the changes, and we are automatically redeploying Okay, so now I have redeployed. Let's have a look at our application. So you see the jobs dashboard works. Let's try accessing the render console. So going to shell. And here we can, now when it loads, we can maybe run Rails console. Okay, let's say Rails console. Oh no, Rails console. Let's see if it connects. Okay, let's see post.count. Let's now trigger a job. What was the job's name? Hello world job dot perform later. Let's have a look at our jobs and see we have one job that has been performed. It has been performed because we have our jobs running in the same process as our web application. So that's amazing. And yes, that is basically it. I deployed a Rails 8 application using Sqlite, Trifecta, and PostgreSQL to production. Now you see, I manually had to create the web application, the database, and Render has an actually better way to deploy applications via blueprints. So imagine as in like Kamal, where's that file? Deploy.yml. So here's the deploy.yml file for Kamal, and it lists a list of things that you would need to fill in to deploy your application to production. And Render has a similar file, Render.yml, that you can fill in that would automatically set up the database, the workers, and everything for your application. So, for example, on MoneyGun, my boilerplate application, I have this Render.yml file. Let's have a look at it. And I said that we create a database in Frankfurt region on this plan or on this plan. I set the disk size to 1 gigabyte by default. I create one web service, the build command, the start command. So you see everything that I manually selected in the web view can be set up in this render.yml file. And using this render.yml file, I can even have a one-click deploy button. So clicking on deploy to render will open my repository, the blueprint, and I can give it a name. So let's name it MoneyGun. Branch main, and there is one key that is required. It is the Rails master key. So let's have a look. I will get my master key. Config master key. I will paste it here, deploy blueprint, and going back, let's look at a list of our projects. So here's the database that it's creating. Out of the database, it is going to create the web service, and it's going to connect everything. And using blueprints, you can set up everything in code, how you want your application to be running. Maybe you want to have Redis, maybe you want to have a separate web service for good job or anything else. You can set it up all in render.yml, and you don't need to manually click through the web views of Render. So I think this is a wonderful way to keep track of all the services you need to correctly deploy your application to production. And if you're using Render, I would actually recommend having this kind of render.yml file for your deploys and update it as your app has new environment variables, as it has new services, and yeah, deploy via render.yml. So yes, that's basically it. This is how you can deploy Rails, modern Rails applications with Render to production. Now, another thing I usually add to my Rails applications when deploying to production is gemlock. So it helps to reduce the memory usage of the application. To add it to Render, I will need to set this LD preload environment variable. So go into an environment, add in this environment variable, and I will set it to this. Thanks, Mark, for the prompt. Save and redeploy. And I think now it's going to work. Now, previously, to add gemlock to a Rails app that I was using on Heroku, I would need to set the environment variable gemlock enabled to true, and I would need to add a build pack of gemlock like this. And yeah, another thing I kind of like about Render is, for example, let me go and create a new web service, and you can add a disk. So going to advanced, you can add a disk. You know, with Heroku, like if you redeploy, everything you've been doing that is not stored in the database is lost, and here you can have some storage for your ongoing stuff. So that's nice. And yeah, there's kind of a bunch of reasons to use Render over Heroku, like there's 100 minutes for HTTP requests versus 30 seconds on Heroku. Render is cheaper than Heroku, much cheaper than Heroku if you're scaling a lot. And finally, big shout out and thank you to Render.com for sponsoring this video, for giving this motivation to find the best approach to deploy a Rails 8 application to production and deliver it to you.